All right, all right. What's going on, good people on the internet and thereabouts? This is your man Kyle Means, editorial director of WARR Media, and also a proud uh, a proud representative of NBC Sports Chicago, especially on this particular recording. Have my friend and colleague Stephanie Stremplewski. Did I get?
You got it right. You got it right. This is
I hit it.
also one of our first times really talking, so I'm going to fully accept that.
Right. I mean, we've talked enough in chats.
Twitter, yeah.
Twitter and what's that, Slack and all that, you know.
How do you feel about Slack, by the way?
I mean, I'm okay with it. I know you had some trouble with it the other day.
Oh my gosh, I did, but it's been resolved. All I had to do was clear my cache, so it's all good. But also, I don't know if you play Wordle, but clearing your cache, cache, whatever, you have to restart your Wordle. So I had a pretty good 23 Michael Jordan streak going on, and I started my Wordle today, and it gave me the instructions of how to play it, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. I had to start back from scratch, so now I'm on a 1 Wordle winning streak.
Now, see, you're one of the people who I see consistently on my timeline with that Wordle stuff. I haven't got.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know nothing. I just see it and I go, okay, that's good for you. That's good for you, I guess. I don't know, but I don't. Can you just give me a quick, because this I'm trying to I got to get into the show, but I don't want to derail this and make this a whole Wordle thing. But the show is supposed to be something else, and I got to get into it. But explain to me right quick, what is Wordle?
Wordle's like sort of like a hangman game, like a little mini Wheel of Fortune. If you've ever seen the show, I'm sure you have. There's I believe there's 6 rounds, and you start with any word, any 5-letter word, and usually you'll get, hopefully, if you guess a word, and it will show you green letters. So, like, for example, I always start with the word audio because somebody recommended me, that's just a word that has a bunch of vowels, so hopefully you'll get some green letters in there. So today, I mean, I'm not trying to give the Wordle today, but I had a couple of green letters. I won't say which ones they were, but let's pretend that I got a green letter in the word. I don't know. I can't think of the top of my head of a 5-letter word with. Okay, we'll just use audio.
But there's one puzzle for everyone.
Yeah, it's the same puzzle. So every day, it's like the same puzzle that everyone will get. So like if I type in the word audio and the A turns green and the rest are maybe gray, that means those letters aren't in the word, but the letter A is in the right spot. So maybe you should guess apple, you should guess another word, but sometimes you'll get a yellow letter. So if you put apple and maybe there's a yellow letter, the L isn't in the correct spot, but it's supposed to be in that puzzle. So maybe the next round you should type the word allow. It's I kind of botched it explaining it, but maybe if you play it, you'll understand it. But it's kind of slightly addicting, and I'm sorry for sharing all of mine on Twitter.
No, I mean, I don't mind a little derailment, because I've been like I said, I haven't known what it was. I've just seen people put the stuff up, and then
I think I share my Wordle because no one cares, which I like. It's a break from all the sports news, because usually if you follow along my Twitter, it's all sports. So I like my Wordle to just be like, who cares? It's a nice little refresher.
Yeah, I wish I could have brought you on just to talk Wordle for a half hour, but I'm bringing you on to talk more sports.
Yeah, there's always next time, but sports is my forte. So,
indeed, Stephanie, like I said, is my co-worker at NBC Sports Chicago. She's a digital producer and all, and writes and does various things on our desk to help make the website and the app, the My Teams app, shine with and just burst forth with all types of relevant content day in and day out. And she worked today. I didn't know that. I thought she was off today. That was another reason why I was willing to bother her, because originally we were going to have another guest. I was going to have like a whole show, but everybody just flaked on me for one reason. I'm not gonna say my guest flaked on me, but the rest of my co-hosts flaked on me.
They're going out for some tacos and tortas.
I think they are. They said they're not available for, but they're probably somewhere getting tacos without me. And if I find that out, I'm gonna be deeply sad, even though I have my own tacos.
Well,
here
lucky for you, my agent said I was available and booked me right.
Right. I had to really dog your agent.
I'll give you the fee. I'll give you the fee later. It's fine.
Yeah. You really blessed me with this with stuff. I appreciate you coming on for first time on this my program in here, and like I said, just a pleasure to talk to you. And again, we are as I explained to my audience on our last show Tuesday, we're just gonna take a little time here to preview the WNBA and the Chicago Sky in particular. Again, like I said, my guest I was gonna have on, Sabria Whitaker. She's gonna be on with us next week, so she's definitely cool with me. But as is Steph, and like I said, we just gonna Steph, I want you to talk a little bit about your background and everything. For those who don't know, you've been in newspapers, you've been in digital media and stuff, and you sort of took on the role of our, you write about various things for NBC Sports, but you sort of took on the role of a Sky reporter in recent times. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say I'm the unofficial. Let's go with that. Let's underline unofficial. I am the unofficial Chicago Sky reporter. And it's been awesome because I wasn't really I don't know if you know this. I was gonna say as you know, but I was like, I don't know if he knows this. I'm a huge baseball nut. Love baseball. Can talk about it for hours. It's insane. But I actually
who are you rooting for the past couple of days?
Well, I mean, the Sox. I mean,
they say we fly your flag.
I don't want the Cubs to struggle, because I don't need Cub fans coming at me saying, "Oh, you're just a Sox fan." No, like if you see my Twitter, I mean, it is mostly Sox, but I root for the Cubs there as well. But I am
you're an objective journalist still.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm more biased to the Sox, but I try to go to Wrigley at least once a year, and I follow them I follow them pretty much the same as I follow the Sox. It's just I have a little bit more emotion with the Sox because of my identity as a South Sider. But I know people Southsiders who root for the Cubs. My mother is a Cubs fan.
There you go. Yeah.
So people have their reasons to root for whoever they root for. It's not
absolutely.
You just gotta you can't judge it just off the strength of it. You got to know the people before you do that. But you're a Sox person, right? So what area of Chicago or Chicagoland did you grow up in?
Yeah, so I grew up on the east side, near Hegwish, and it's also near the Hammond Horseshoe Casino. That's my neck of the woods. Lived there for about.
So you like around that. See, I know that area well because again, my mother she likes to go get a gas out there, and she likes to go to the Hammond Casino. So that you go like around Ewing, and you go down towards Indianapolis, in Boulevard, and all that. So you were in that area.
Yeah. So that was my area, and then my family and I moved to Northwest Indiana. So we still are very close to Chicago. I'm about 40 minutes from Guaranteed Rate. So I was just there Monday. Saw Liam
And
Hendricks.
that's the stronghold of Sox fandom, Northwest
Yeah.
Indiana.
Oh, yeah, there is a lot of Sox fans out here. I feel like I see, well, I don't know. See, I was gonna say during World Series time, 2016, I saw Cub flags everywhere. But yeah, I don't
Some
know.
front runners.
I think that the Sox do a great job of reaching out to Northwest Indiana. I don't know if Wrigley Field does that, but I know that the staff at Guaranteed Rate, like they'll have special discounted nights specifically for Northwest Indiana residents. I've seen those nights before, so I think they know that they have a strong fan base around here, and
Right.
I'm glad that they recognize that. That's pretty cool.
And you work too at the paper out there, the Northwest Indiana
Yes, I did.
paper.
Yeah, that's just 20 minutes from my house, and yeah, I did work for the Times of Northwest Indiana newspaper. I don't know if you know this. I know I've been saying that a lot because we are both still learning to get to know each other, that's awesome.
Yeah, we've
I
only been co-workers since October, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, but this is like our first time like really getting in a deep conversation. I absolutely This is so awesome. Yeah, so
I'm so glad you appreciate it.
I went to Indiana University. I actually was going into broadcast journalism, so I was really heavily into learning how to write specifically for broadcast. And then it was really
Mm.
difficult finding a job after graduation. A friend of mine recommended our newspaper. He said they're looking for a copy editor. I know that's not really your thing, but I was like, hey, I need a job. I need to learn, um, this industry. You can always work somewhere small, build your way up. And I also was kind of afraid of writing at the time. This was like 2018, 2019. And I was like, if you want to become a better writer, you should probably learn how to specifically write for a newspaper. Maybe that'll help me become a better TV writer. I thought that's where I was headed 5 years back. So once I became a copy editor and started to get additional roles there, writing short stories, I did freelance. Previously, I was like a freelance features writer, and I had to learn. I got assigned the stuff that no one really wanted to do. I remember getting assigned to do a story about like a high school equestrian, and I had no idea what that was. So I had to just learn about horse shows, and it was amazing. I had a great time, but it definitely helped me become a better writer, and I'd like to think a better reporter as well. Always thinking on your feet, and I'm by no means like perfect. I'm still learning day in and day out. Like I'm still learning
Yeah.
with NBC Sports Chicago, and I absolutely love it. Like I don't ever want to feel perfect. I always want to be like, hey, I want to show you my idea. Is this something I can work on? I'm always for collaboration, making people's work better, always for that. So working for the newspaper was a great opportunity. I knew that's not really where I wanted to be, and eventually got a job as a digital producer with NBC Sports in 2020, March 2020. But because of the pandemic, my time was cut short. But um, I was allowed back after things were starting to look better. So I was one of the first people called back, and I've been on a roll ever since. And we were talking about how I kind of got that unofficial Sky role earlier. Well, leading back into that, um, yeah, I just remember game 3 of the finals between the Sky and the Mercury, and our boss he asked me if I could watch the game from home, because I think that they weren't really allowing reporters at the time at the games because of COVID. I think it was very limited, but
Well,
we
I can
still.
speak. I can speak to that, but
You
I'll let
can.
you finish. But I can speak to that.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't really even know what was happening, but I was asked if I could watch the game from home and cover the game remotely. And I was like, yeah, sure. And me still learning, a baseball nut. I've covered, some baseball, a little bit of football. I hadn't really officially covered basketball. So I knew what was happening. But I was just like, oh, like game 3. So I had to really look up my stats and be really sharp on that story. And then I just remember Kalia Copper was like the hero of game 3. She was awesome. And then game 4, which was the actual championship, I was asked to write that one remotely as well. And I remember actually being quite a few minutes late on that story when I turned it in, because it actually looked like the Sky were going to lose. If you remember, they had
they
a
went down
thrilling
quite a bit.
fourth quarter comeback in the last few minutes. Allie Quigley was on fire. Candace Parker. I mean, it was insane. So I actually wrote that it was looking like they were going to lose, but then I remember Allie Quigley had this play. Oh, wait, this play's better. Like, I had to rearrange my whole entire story. Well, pretty much the majority of it, and sent that in, and it was just so awesome. They actually won 80-74, so it was a really close game. Phoenix Mercury were a great opponent, and I know we're probably going to talk about this later on, of who do we think we're going to see in the finals this year. I think the Mercury, I think they'll make it to the finals, if not win it. I mean, of course, we hope the Sky win again and have a repeat championship, but the Phoenix Mercury, I mean, that series really could have gone either way.
Yeah, it was very competitive. You look at that franchise, that roster as it was last year, you had that natural big 3 on that team with Brittany Griner, who, we'll speak a little bit about her situation as well, but her and Diana Taurasi, who many say maybe the best women's player of all time, and my girl from Notre Dame,
Diggins,
Skylar Diggins, yeah. And that was just a natural big 3 there, and without we don't know if they're going to have to deal without Griner for this entire season.
Right.
But they're definitely not don't have her available now. But they go ahead and pick up Diamond DeShields, and just really going to that's going to be an interesting storyline. How much is she going to adapt to that change, and will she rise to that occasion? Because, like you mentioned, Kalia Copper did a lot to steal her shine towards the end here in Chicago, and a lot of people who are following the Sky was sort of like, waiting for Diamond to really hit another level, but she couldn't do that. And then eventually Kalia just sort of got in her way and really just took over a lot of that playmaking that we was sort of expecting Diamond to see. But that was really, really cool how you described the situation that you came, how you came into writing. And that was just before I got onto the staff with y'all, because I remember the first real shift I had was the day that they had the parade and everything.
Oh, the parade. I was off that day.
But you still wrote something.
I still wrote something because I felt it. I was like, I'm the unofficial Sky reporter for NBC Sports. I have to write something, and I'm really glad I did, because I didn't. Sometimes when you're covering something, you don't really know what you're going to come up with. And sometimes you hear a specific quote, or you're just like feeling something in the moment. So I really did feel, I know it sounds silly, but I'm watching it on TV, and I did feel like I was there, because I was so in the moment of covering the game and just learning about everybody's history and their background and their stats. So I was really into it. And I just remember James Wade, general manager and head coach of the Sky. He came out and he said, remember where you're sitting. And I was just like, whoa, what? Like, because he's like, this time next year, it's like, I think the whole team really wants that repeat championship. So I kind of got chills, and I was like, that's what I'm writing about. I'm writing about remember where you're sitting, like remember your seat. And it sort of kind of flowed from there. And of course, Candice Parker came out, Naperville native, and I actually got to interview her in November, and just the things that she had to say, like coming out and winning in front of her hometown crowd, like just how much it meant to her. One of the things that she mentioned to me was, obviously she's a huge Bulls fan, and she grew up. She vividly remembers, the three-peat and seeing Jordan and the rallies downtown, and she wanted to do that so bad. She wanted to win a championship in Chicago. She wanted the downtown rally, and then she got it. So I kind of asked her, I was like, you followed those athletes, and now you have young athletes looking up to you. What is that like? And she was like, this championship, it's for them. It's for the city of Chicago. And I got chills. I'm getting chills now. And what I love about Candace Parker is, she's one of the she's right up there with Taurasi. She's one of the best in the WNBA, one of the greatest athletes, and she's at that superstar level. And sometimes superstars will give you those perfect, polished up answers. She speaks from the heart, and she really loves her hometown. She really loves Chicago. And so I think it meant the most to her to bring that championship, to help bring a championship, the first in franchise history for the Sky. So I was really, that answer, if she couldn't have said it better. I'm really glad that she was the one to say that.
Yeah, Candace is the best, and you could tell how dope she is by how people don't even talk about. People mention that she's from Naperville, but
Right.
when she flies the Chicago flag, like if she was
Right.
just a regular person flying the Chicago flag
Yeah,
from
we're all like,
Naperville,
oh, where are you from? Naperville?
yeah,
That's not Chicago.
right,
She's allowed. She's allowed.
yeah. Nobody checks her on it because she's that dope, and she brought that title here and everything, and
Yes.
right quick, I'm getting to my experience from last season. Now,
Absolutely.
this is really cool that you got to interview her one-on-one. I've been in scrums and press conferences and stuff from last year. That was the first time that during the playoffs that I've even attended a Sky game,
Okay.
and I did it a couple times. The team was cool enough to give me credentials under my banner here with WARR Media, and I got a couple other my people who I collaborate with who have followed them prior to prior to being with me as well. So we were able to get together and do some things at the stadium. I was there the night they clinched before the final.
Yeah.
When they won, they clinched against Connecticut and they eliminated them. I didn't get to go to the finals because I guess this is sort of a typical thing, but the credentials turned over to the league for the
That makes
finals.
sense. Okay.
So it was the people you had to contact were different at that time, and I just didn't get to do it, and I didn't get it in time. I wasn't even aware of who to really contact at that point. And so I had to stay at home and everything. The championship Sunday, I watched the game here at my home. And that was a day where I could have went to the Bears, and because I had credentials for the Bears last year, and I could have went. They played the Packers that day, but I was so. That was the time when they was like they were starting to turn, and it was like they just gonna get whooped by the Packers. So I wanted to be available for the Sky game, and I skipped the game a couple weeks. Like I say, during that Connecticut series, I skipped the Bears when they played Detroit to cover the Sky game. So I was and I was fine with that decision. I told some people in my life, I was like, I'm going to the Sky game. I'm not going to the Bears game. They was like, what you doing that for? But I was like, the Sky are a championship team. They could be, the Bears aren't going to be a championship team this year.
Right.
But,
no, I respect that.
But the Sky was it was just such a great run.
Yeah.
And it was in some ways expected, but not expected, because they came into the season looking like a team that could compete but they
Right.
had such a rough go of it in that first half of the season, especially. It took them basically the whole season to get themselves together, and
Yes.
then once they got to the postseason, they couldn't be beat pretty much at that
Right.
point.
Yeah, it was like
Uh,
something sparked. They're out of 12 teams, they're the only team that finished at 500. So you're kind of like, oh, what's going to happen? Are they going to make it far in the playoffs? And then of course, the Connecticut Sun were the number one team, and
yeah,
they beat them 3-1 in the semifinals. So you're like, what? Wait, you have a chance. You have a chance at winning this whole thing. So I think the chemistry clicked, especially between. Well, I mean, I would say especially between or among Parker, Vandersloot, and Quigley, and that's something that Parker's mentioned to me before. Is she really wanted to win it. Of course for the whole team, but specifically for uh, Vandersloot and Quigley. They've been on the team for a little bit now, and
yeah.
um, she just
They had.
mentioned.
I'm sure they were players that who she respected
Oh
for a
yeah,
long time, seeing them in the
yes,
league.
yeah,
Yeah.
and she's played against them before. I think when she won her championship in 2016 with Los Angeles. I think that the series before getting to the finals, I believe the Sparks beat the Sky, and that was a team that had Quigley and Vandersloot. So I was asking her from like an opponent standpoint, and as her teammates, and she really does respect their game, and she talks about how they're some of the greatest players in the game, and she talked about their team drills together, and she would practice with those two specifically, and I really
Yeah.
do think that the chemistry just clicked, especially in the playoffs.
And she talked about them recruiting her with care packages
Yeah.
of Portillo's and stuff. So
Yes.
that's how they want to
I think
Gans
I think
popcorn or whatever.
out of all the care packages, I'm pretty sure it was Portillo's that officially hooked her in.
Oh yeah, yeah. You could tell she spoke when she speak about it. She
Yeah, she's
loved
not
that
joking.
Portillo.
So
Yeah.
I think if Portillo's, if you're watching this, I'm sure you are. I think you should give that. I think you should give Candice Parker free Portillo's for life.
I mean, there's a lot of things that I think some these though the Sky in particular and players and the teams throughout that league could use more of a deserve more of it. It's not the fair. It's not a when you talk about pro sports, everything isn't fair. But
Right.
it's really when you look at some of the inequities that are just sort of inbred in the WNBA, it's really unfortunate. But because
Right.
when you get down to it, the ball playing and the environment when this really ramped up like it was last season, it could be great. Like we really, I think Chicago, I think really set a new standard for a sort of championship frenzy in that
Oh
league.
yeah.
Because I could date back to the initial years of the league, and they've had some amazing teams in this league. The 4-term champion Houston teams in the late '90s, early 2000s, and
Hmm.
you like some of those Sparks teams, the Spark team in particular that Candace won with, and Minnesota Lynx has some amazing teams. Like they,
Yes.
yeah, they've had some great. Like there's just been the story of women's basketball for the past 25 years has been based on what's going on in America with as far as a publicity way. We've learned that in Europe they've actually made more money, and they in some
Right.
ways they take the game more seriously over there than they do here,
Right.
unfortunately. But
Right.
being the WNBA being connected to the NBA has meant a lot in regards to it. Is being able to survive and grow, and just like I say, making the game more people taking it seriously here in America is meaningful for the future of the game. Now I think there's a lot that we just gotta keep investing and keep
Absolutely.
following up on the promise that's there. And I'll just toss it over to you. In some ways, how do you think think that should be addressed with the league and in the present and going forward?
Sure. I think one of the things, like, with the Sky growing, especially more in the community of Chicago, winning the championship, Marquee Sports Network, home of the Chicago Cubs,
Yeah,
recently announced a deal that they're going to host 16 of the regular season games on TV. I think that's a huge win, especially for the Sky, especially for people who, have access to Marquee Sports. I know some people still maybe don't have it on in their television packages.
yeah,
But I'm excited. Game one, series, the season opener, excuse me, is tomorrow, and it's actually against the Los Angeles Sparks. So it's a
yeah.
big deal because it's Parker, playing against her old team. So I'm sure that's going to be the main storyline tomorrow. Of course, she was the first overall pick by the Sparks in 2008. She helped them win a championship in 2016. She was Rookie of the Year in 08. She's won 2 MVPs. So, I mean, that's going to be an incredible storyline. But, I
Now,
do think. Oh, go
I would
ahead.
say right quick. That said, I know the NBA playoffs is going on and stuff. Hockey, ESPN is
Yeah,
back in with hockey and stuff. I
right.
mean, to not find any place on its networks for the ESPN networks, at least, I
Yeah,
think that's a little bit disheartening.
it is.
For whether they could have had the game they could have kept the game on Friday or maybe moved it to Saturdays. Because I
Sure,
remember last
sure.
year they had a big premiere with the Sky in Washington, and
Okay.
that there was the talk was then that they had a pretty good rating and everything. But
Yeah,
to not follow that up this year, I think is a little disheartening. But you know, this is still. I think it still stands to be covered well.
sure.
And like you said, it's going to be on the Marquee Network and all that. And I just want to see how that presentation is. If it's going to
Absolutely.
look big time, like when the Bulls did
It better it
their
better not look like a high school broadcast, that, or I'm
yeah.
gonna be talking to somebody at Marquee. I will. No, as you
We
mentioned,
all need to talk about it. Like
we all,
if they come up short in any
yeah,
way,
they'll hire
be it
us.
Marquee
They should
or
hire
the
us.
yeah.
No, I agree with you. And you mentioned, the bigger networks like ESPN, and I believe it was TNT that hosted the finals last year that I watched it on. Um, I think that those are the obviously bigger, like, primetime networks that sort of have their, they know what they're going to schedule. Like you said, the hockey playoffs, and they already know their schedule, I think, ahead of time, and the big ratings, big money, like, those networks kind of really know what, like I said, they're gonna
Yeah.
assign basically. So what's cool about Marquee is it only really hosts the Cubs. I don't really know what other shows. I think I saw, like, some guy fishing after a Cubs game. Like, they might have those types of things on Marquee
It's
Network,
kind of
but I know,
random, yeah.
yeah, it is kind of random. But what's great
Not
is
like
that,
NBC Sports, Chicago.
yeah, yeah. What's great about Marquee is that it's just Cubs right now, so it can allow to host the Sky. And so
Right.
maybe this will be a network that's Cubs and Sky. Maybe this is a test. Like, let's have Marquee host 16 games, but maybe they'll, expand and it'll become home of the Cubs and the Sky. So I really like to see that. But you
I
were
like the
mentioning,
two on 26 too. I like.
what's that?
I think that's just. I like the Sky on 26 as well.
Okay.
Like the production value isn't always that great, but
Hmm.
just to have a local team on free TV,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not speaking,
Yeah.
ill of my employers or anything, but I'm old enough to remember when every team had some of their schedule at least on free TV, and I
Hmm.
think you lose a little something in the market. But
Yeah.
Chicago really benefited from that for a long time, much
Right.
longer than a lot of other major markets in America, where like I say, we're able to watch some of all of our major teams on free TV. That's not
Hmm.
the case anymore.
Yeah.
So having the Sky, that really in allow me, it was easier for me to follow the sky and get into the sky even before last fall, by being able to see occasional game on 26 or whatever, just whether I
Right.
was just passing by, breezing by the channels, or if
Right.
I anticipated it, I could it made it easier. And I think it makes it easier for a lot of other kids who may not have the same access to cable or streaming that others may have. And I know we think of it all as ubiquitous at this point, but some kids don't always have access to that. And I think, especially when you talk about the WNBA, reaching out and having kids be accessible, have access to the game is going to mean a lot for for women's basketball and for that league and its growth. Where say getting kids into the game and having kids grow up, men and women grow up from children respecting the game and not feeling like it's secondary.
And I really do think that people, especially people that follow Chicago sports, I think they do want more coverage of the sky because, and this could just be me and in my personal opinion, but on my Twitter, I could post, maybe a bigger bear story, maybe not the biggest, but a slightly big bear story or a Sox story, and I'll get maybe between 0 to 2 likes. I don't even know if people read it. Maybe they just see a player they like and are like, oh, favorite. Anytime I write about the sky, I won't even have to tag or hashtag or anything. I'll write about the Chicago sky and I'll immediately get like 10 to 15 likes. And I'm like, oh, I think people want more coverage. I don't think they care about another Bears story, another Justin Fields was spotted at whatever stadium. I think people want to hear more about the sky. I don't know if they want to just hear it from me instead of my Wordles and my sock stories. I think they want to hear more about the sky. And I'm like, I'm all for that. Hey, listen, I'm trying to do my best and bring you some sky news, the best that I can. But I'm still learning about the sport.
There's definitely appetite here in
Yeah.
Chicago. Because
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
part of it is just the respect in general for good basketball that is
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And whether it's coming from, like I say, a men's team or a women's team, it doesn't matter. And that Sky team came at a great time because
it did.
We didn't. It was before the Bulls had their little reawakening. People were still like, well, we don't know what we're going to see for this Bulls team yet.
Right.
And Sky came along and was like, look, we're showing you what a championship team is again here. And so I think a lot of people just here in Chicago missing that feeling. It was easy for them to get into that team because they were providing that again. And of course, you had the star power of Candace Parker and all that. And there's just a lot of things. And we really do got some great people covering that team here in town, whether it's you or Andy Constable or, my man James Kay, who did a great job with the Tribune late last year. He works with my guy, Chris Pennant, who's a part of this podcast. So, we got some great people here in Chicago who really are taking up for the cause and, being good reporters, but also, taking up for the cause of women's sports and women's basketball. And that's not gonna end anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm absolutely all for it. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm still new to the WNBA. Like I said, being a baseball nut, I could speak for hours about baseball, but it's really cool to learn as I go about the WNBA because I do write it from, if there's a casual fan who maybe doesn't know about the sky or isn't really familiar about the WNBA, what do they want to know? And so I'm writing kind of like as I'm learning and growing with our audience. And so I think that's pretty cool because, like I said, I'm not a veteran reporter, but I'm learning just like new fans that maybe didn't even know the Sky were a great team or were in the finals. Maybe there's still fans that I don't know if they're listening right now that may have not known that they won their first championship. So, I mean, you can learn every day about something new, about a new sport specifically. And like you said, it's all about, I think the reason you and I do this job is not only because we love it, we have a passion for sports, but we want to see our community grow. We want to see the sport grow. We want to give the best news and the best quotes and the best behind the scenes to our audience. And I'm just as big of an audience fan as anybody else. Like, I just happen to have this job, but like, I'm a huge fan as well. It's like I read our stuff on our site and I'm following along just like everybody else. So it's really, really cool to see the WNBA, the sky rising in Chicago.
Definitely. And with that sort of drive to learn and indoctrinate yourself more with the sky, I'm guessing that extends to the league as well. So how have you really gotten into so researching or just have you been taking in more WNBA media overall from looking at the league as a whole or from other
Yeah,
contenders or whatnot?
I would say more so than I have last year for sure. Definitely, again, not an expert, so I don't know every single player and but I do know a little bit of the ins and outs and here and there. And you also mentioned, I believe, expansion earlier. Or how does the game grow?
Yeah,
As we mentioned, there's only 12 teams, and they pretty much have a team in every major city, which is pretty cool. That's a big start, but I think that they do need to expand. And there's always some hearsay of, oh, they're going to be bringing in another team next year. There's always rumors, but
right.
I'm curious to know. I have some thoughts on this, but I was curious to know if the WNBA, like if the league were to announce a new team in the next, let's say, I don't know, 2 to 5 years, like which city do you think deserves it most, or should a team be there most?
Well, they've had cities that have had teams and lost them,
Yeah,
like Detroit and San Antonio. I think San Antonio became Las Vegas, and there's I'm trying to think. There may be a couple others, but I would probably start in one of those cities that maybe have had
that lost the
teams
team.
and lost them, and sort of you know cities that maybe have NBA teams. Like I think in some ways the attachments of the early attachments where you had WNBA teams sort of working under the umbrella of established NBA teams.
Hmm.
It worked in some cases, and in other cases it didn't work because they were sort of seen. Some of these teams were seen as now I don't know. It seemed like they were seen as write-offs or something like that for
Okay.
these NBA franchises, and they didn't really invest in them. Again, invest is a key word. They didn't put money into these teams to compete and do things that would allow the teams to have staying power in their respective markets. So I think the key, you can put a team anywhere. I think the key really actually would be the ownership and who's putting that those initial stakes into these teams. If you want to bring a team to a smaller market like
Yeah.
a Kansas City or a Portland or uh, even like a non-traditional pro market like a Birmingham or something like that.
Right.
The possibilities are there. You just got to have people, I think, who have money and have the willingness
Yeah.
to invest in women's basketball.
Yeah, I actually saw a tweet. I think it was the WNBPA and like Delta Airlines. They sort of had this little joke. Delta Airlines was like talking about just some locations and in general. I don't know if it was like they were talking about flight destinations or something, but the
Yeah.
WNBPA like replied back like, "Oh, are there any destinations to Nashville, Toronto, or the Bay Area?" So then people were thinking like, oh, are those the next three cities? Or, is there a team going to be
Okay.
located in one of those three cities? But it's funny because before I saw that tweet, I was also on my little list I had of where a team could be. where I'd like to see a team next, I also listed the Bay Area. That was my number one, seeing a team maybe in San Francisco or Oakland. And I thought, the only team in the WNBA from California is the Sparks. So I was like, oh, maybe having sort of like this rivalry between like a San Francisco team and a Los Angeles team would be cool. Obviously, we know that the Golden State Warriors have really revamped basketball in their community, specifically in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. And so I think bringing a WNBA team would really just, oh my gosh, I think it would stack up Oakland even more.
That'd be a
Especially,
great place.
yeah, I think it really would. I really do.
And
So
another one of those teams was in Sacramento. There was a team in
oh,
Sacramento.
okay. See, I didn't know
So
that.
you're not
Okay.
talking the Bay Area exactly, but close
Yeah,
by.
yeah,
So maybe you can draw fans from that wider area,
yes,
Sacramento, San Jose,
yeah.
along with Oakland and San Francisco. And we know they love basketball up there, and
Mhm.
there's money up there
Lots
in
of it.
Silicon Valley. So I
They got
mean,
that Full House
that would be
money.
a
They got that Bob Saget
full
money.
house money, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be an ideal place, I think, to have another team. And
yeah.
when you just saying it, I didn't even think that the Sparks are the only California team, and they have, what they have, 4 or 5 teams in the NBA in that state, and it's again, that doesn't look right,
Basketball is loved in California. So
Yeah,
yeah, WNBA if you're listening, Bay Area.
yeah.
Also on my list, I didn't see any teams from Florida. So maybe a
Yeah.
Tampa team, um, Miami possibly, Orlando. I think that there's a basketball community there as well. And if not, it's like, we mentioned earlier, you learn something new every day. So, I'm thinking of places where maybe women's basketball isn't maybe super popular. So I'm thinking like Utah or like Wyoming or something like that. But I think you can always insert a sport and maybe people they didn't know what they were missing and they could become the biggest fans. So if there's maybe some areas in Florida where WNBA maybe isn't so popular, I think, try it out.
Well, look at in the NBA where I think the best example of this would probably be Oklahoma City,
Mhm.
where a generation ago nobody would have thought of Oklahoma City as being a place where you'd have an
Yeah,
NBA team. But then they
right.
had the little experiment when New Orleans had to be up there had to settle up there because of the Hurricane
Right.
Katrina. Then they found out just how much people loved basketball there.
Yeah,
They give them a team. A successful team is built there for a little while, and it becomes one of the most frenzied areas in the country. And even
absolutely.
though the team isn't as good now, they still are maintaining that franchise there. So, yeah, like you said, you never know until you try. And some of these
Absolutely.
markets may be ripe for a type of women's basketball revolution, as it were.
Yeah. There's a need. And you never know, like, boys and girls that watch basketball, but I'm talking about especially girls that, need role models too. So maybe there's a little girl in Florida that's like, doesn't have a Candace Parker or Diana Taurasi to like look up to. So we could have the next Diana Taurasi in Florida and nobody knows it. So it's really important to expand. So I really hope that the WNBA does. I don't know if we're going to see 3 teams in the next 5 years, but I'll settle for at least one.
Really good. And the final point on that, I think, is that, that's a great point about the future. But, even looking at the present, where you have one of the storylines that I see on social media from the past couple of days, the major storylines coming from the league is the major cuts that have occurred from the existing team, the 12
Yeah.
teams, like you say. They're not enough. There's a couple things involved in this where you have a sort of a strict salary cap and you
Mm-hmm.
have a small number of teams. So that means the teams can't spend money. They're not encouraged to spend money or only encouraged to a certain degree to spend money, and there's only so many spots on each team. So
Right.
you look at the WNBA, 12 teams each having like maybe 12 spots essentially. And so you're talking about, I mean, I don't expose my math skills, but 12 times 12, 100, 124,
144. This is why
I gave myself
we're
enough time.
journalists. This is
Yeah,
why we
right.
write. We can't do math.
Exactly. That's one of the things we have to, you have to know about journalism.
I gave up math a long time ago. Okay.
Yeah. Well, except for baseball people,
There we go. There we go.
But 144 spots in a country where look at how many young women are playing basketball in the college sport who are really excellent, and we see it in March every year with the tournament, and the majority of those women, they have to go again overseas or somewhere, do something else with their lives.
They're getting paid more overseas. Yeah.
Yeah. But because they can't, and part of it is because they can't even get on these WNBA teams where they're not even making the money that they make overseas, but they want to at least play here in their country and play in front of their friends and family and stuff.
Right.
But then you get cut from these teams because they only have so many spots.
Right.
So it's like, if the WNBA had at least 3 more teams, if they were 15, 16 teams, that would make up a lot of the talent disparity that is there in the league, where you can't even keep players who are really at a professional level. You can't even keep them.
I know,
and it's sad. That has to be a storyline entering a season where so many people are in the league and who follow the league are like, man, what? All these women have to be let go when we'd like to see them play, and we don't know where we're going to see them play for the time being.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know who like the equivalent of a top NBA player is. So let's just go with Steph Curry, but like the female equivalent of Steph Curry, it's like turning away Steph Curry and saying, "Oh, sorry, your talent's great, but we don't have room for you." And then poor Steph Curry like has to be, a teacher, or has to, maybe if he still wants to work in athletics, maybe a coach or an athletic director. But it's kind of like you are knocking down that God-given talent and turning it away. It is really sad. It is really sad, and something does need to be changed.
Yeah. Like I said, that's definitely a reason why I'm advocating for for expansion for the league and for bigger for more money into the league, so that those women can be paid who are there now. Like, they shouldn't be so restricted. But I guess another thing I wanted to touch on, as we talk about the league as a whole, is the Brittany Griner situation. They announced earlier this week that they're going to be decals of her initials and her jersey number on all the arena courts for this season. So that definitely show a solidarity, which is something that we could become accustomed to with that league when they when they get behind something, the cause, even if it's outside of what they what people might think is their scope, they get behind it, and they're pretty unified as a set of players and athletes and franchises. And this is affecting this is definitely affecting them. It's definitely close to home. It's one of their own, and Griner being the sort of reclassification in the eyes of American diplomats that has been announced this week as well, with her a positive development there, where the possibility of her being seen as I guess diplomatically being seen as a different case in Russia as opposed to just being a criminal who got caught up, which is how so many people sort of saw her early on, at least on that side of the world. But now she's seen as wrongfully detained, technically, and the possibility is that she can be negotiated out of that situation sooner than later. What are your thoughts on that whole situation? And do you think that's something that may be rectified during this coming season?
I do think that the issue shows that it's more than just a game, and that there's, bigger issues to be settled. Our countries are very different, and it's kind of crazy how some people may think that she is rightfully detained, and however, most of us, I would believe, think that she is wrongfully detained, which, in my opinion, she is. And I think it's really great that it's not just her home team that's showing their support, because it's their player having the decals on just their territory. It's all 12 teams. So I think really, standing in solidarity is pretty cool because, like I said, it's more than just a game. It's more than just a sport. You're talking about just like world issues now. I think we all need to get on the same page at some point, but I do really respect that they all will be honoring Griner.
Yeah, and it'd be such a loss if she's not available to WNBA at all this year because, like we said earlier, that team that she's on is definitely the contender, that Phoenix team, and it'll be rough. Just imagine her not being in the finals last year, the playoffs last year. Do they even get that far if she's not there? And I mentioned this on Tuesday with my guys, like, if this was an NBA player of her caliber being detained overseas
there's no way
at the start of a new season,
there's no way she would be detained anymore. Yeah, it's sad.
It'd be such a bigger deal in general. It's ridiculous, So, beyond the fact that this should be a bigger deal is like, at least there is some things that are there are some gears that are being grinded here, and hopefully it'll lead to her being free and with her family again, her teammates and everybody who she loves here in America sooner rather than later. And again, it's to the credit of the league that they're making a unified statement and showing their support.
Yeah.
And speaking of statements, I would regret not mentioning the statement that the WNBA made yesterday in reaction to all the news with the impending repeal. It looks like of Roe v. Wade. The leak of the information coming from the Supreme Court really has been a distressing thing for a lot of Americans.
Sure.
And a lot of people who admire the WNBA in particular probably feel the worst about it. But the WNBA made a statement. I'm reading off of their Twitter yesterday. They said the WNBA believes all women have the right to autonomy over their bodies and fair and equal access to health care. We will continue to support and advocate for women in their personal decisions regarding their health. We also must act to protect women's rights, and elections have consequences. That is why civic engagement and voting rights will remain the focus as we tip off the 2022 WNBA season. Really,
awesome.
Just a great statement, and the type of thing that we've come to expect from that league. Dating back to even before the Black Lives Matter protests and everything. From a couple years ago, but the way they stood in their bubble at that time down in Florida was amazing. And again, players individually and as units have made statements for years to that degree. Supporting civil rights, supporting human rights, and this is them again. This is again close to home. It's speaking about women's rights to their bodies and the reproductive rights here in America. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to me, like this seemed to be that a time where it's just steps is sort of in sync with the
Yeah.
league and allows them to utilize their platforms again and their voices as athletes and as public figures to do good and to
Mhm.
inform and make, like say, galvanize other supporters of those issues. And it seems meant to be, as much of it sucks that we have to go through this struggle. It
Right.
seems meant to be that it's happening the same week that the WNBA is reconvening as a league.
Right.
You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it sounds like our government needs to be run by the WNBA. Yeah, I just like I said earlier, I really respect that the WNBA specifically realizes that it's more than just a game. Like it's not just, these over 6 foot athletes shooting baskets and trying to make money because some of them don't really make a lot of money, as we talked about earlier in this stream. It really is about human rights, and it's more about the human than the player. So I do respect the WNBA, but you mentioned just the issues that we're going through now. It really is sad that we're so far behind, especially compared to other countries. And not trying to get like political or anything like that, but it's just really sad that we do really seem like we're retrogressing at times and we're not really progressing moving forward. It's really sad to see, but I have 100% respect for the WNBA, and I was not aware of that tweet, so I'm glad that you read it to me, for them taking a stand. And yeah, it's all I have to say is it's more than just a game. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. More than a game, and like I say, as much as any league in American sports, they represent that and to the fullest, and
Absolutely.
they stand behind their words. So definitely, that's as much of a reason as any. I think really, like I said, I've always had an admiration for the game and the sport, and so many of the athletes in it. But I think, like I said, the way that they stood up in 2020 really
Yeah.
sort of really sort of sold me, for really indefinitely about,
Mhm.
you know I should give my support to that league, and as much as I can, and as much of my platforms that I have available to me, I want to big up the sport, and there's people in it, and make sure that that other people understand why it's important and why it's not just something to maybe distract you over the summer, while the NBA isn't going on. It's not just
Right.
it was more than that, and if you really love basketball, and if you really love, if you really are about the things that you say, a lot of people say they about certain things, and they
Yeah.
don't really
But they won't
stand
stand up.
behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, if you're really about those certain things in this country, and you want to see some some better representation
Mhm.
in again, it is sports, it is pop culture and all, but
Right.
it's important. And these, like I say, these women put a lot on the line just by making the statements that they make, and they do it for, again, a lot less money
Lot less
and
lot
perks,
less
and
fame. Yeah, a lot
yeah,
less recognition, publicity, everything. Marketing,
yeah.
everything.
So they should, they should have your support, and that's why I'm glad to do stuff like this and have people like you
Mm.
on to talk about it. And I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you agreed to come on, Steph. I'm glad you had the time, and we wound up doing twice as much time as I was expecting.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't want to hold you too long, but we had a great
Oh,
convo, and
yeah, it was
this
great.
was real fun.
Yeah, I'd love to hop on again, and
Yeah.
I was especially happy to talk about the Sky, especially their season opener. I did want to mention, I don't know how much time you've got left. I did want to mention
I'm good.
I got
I'm good.
I got a report from the team today saying that Allie Quigley, of course, one of the core players, she will be out tomorrow. She's dealing with some knee issues.
Okay.
The Sun-Times did report earlier today that she should maybe be back sometime next week. She's not feeling 100%, so James Wade is like, you know what? Let's just keep it safe. Tomorrow's just the first game. Let's keep you healthy. So I think it's a very smart decision on both their parts to have her sit out. Of course, Kalia Copper, 2021 Finals MVP. She's still overseas, so I don't think she's gonna be. I don't think she's gonna be back in time tomorrow. So that's
No.
two core players that won't be in the lineup tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Sky will play. I think that they should use it as a test. Of course, knock on wood, we don't hope for any major injuries, but it's a good test to see if you don't have Quigley, if you don't have Copper, how this team will play without those two starters. So I think that's also something to watch out for. And to anybody that's listening to this and you have Marquee, watch the Sky tomorrow. Just even if it's background noise, like, those views help. The broadcasters, maybe you learn something that, I like learning facts all the time. I'll be cooking something. I hear a fact and I'm immediately intrigued. So I definitely, recommend if you're a Chicago sports fan, if you love basketball, if you love your community, definitely check out the Sky, even if it's just for a minute or two, maybe 5 minutes. The Sky could really use your support.
Right, definitely. And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I did see some coverage, in particular in the Sun-Times today, about their roster situation, and there are a couple of players who are not available to them now because of other restrictions or other responsibilities and stuff.
Right.
I know they have that big Chinese player.
Yeah,
who a lot of people talk about as well.
Yeah, she's working to get her visa, if I understood that correctly. And then, of course, Copper, Julie Alleman, Rebecca Gardner, they're overseas, and they're not expected to come back till mid-May.
Yeah. So, yeah, there'll be some challenges for the team starting off. But as we spoke to earlier about their 2021, they were able to
500
overcome a lot of bad stuff that happened in the early part of the season, injuries and players not being around and stuff. And they had that big, the Olympic break was kind of crazy too, with all that happened there, but they overcame. And so definitely looking at this year's team, the possibility is there for them to do more. And hopefully they won't, like I say, put themselves in as much of a hole as they did last year.
Right.
But they still have their big weapons. They brought in the Messelman,
they now have 3 MVPs on the roster. Messelman, they got Parker, Copper. So James Wade knows what he's doing. I give credit to him. They want to repeat. They want a repeat championship. So he also signed the core 3. He earlier this season, this off season, he re-signed Copper, Quigley, Vandersloot. So yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Quigs and Vandersloot wasn't a lock. For a little while, it was worried that they wouldn't be brought in. I'm gonna look real quick about, because there hasn't been a repeat champion in a while. Let me look that up right quick. But there's definitely a big it would be history making.
It would. I think that would definitely help shine a light more on women's basketball, especially in the Chicago community, because look at all the success, look at all of it it's done since October. There's been a lot of good buzz, of course, Marquee picking them up. I think that winning another championship, oh my gosh, it could only skyrocket marketing more, hopefully publicity. July 10th, the Sky at Wintrust Arena, they're going to host, for the first time, they're going to host the WNBA All-Star Game. So a lot of fun activities will be scheduled around that time. So I'm excited for the publicity around that time as well. And of course, the championship ring ceremony is May 24th. I'll be going as a fan, and I'm really excited to see that turnout. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it looks like the last repeat champion was the Sparks
I was
in
gonna say it
2000.
has to be the Sparks. Was
Yeah,
Lisa Leslie on
2001
that
or
team?
2002.
Oh yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
think yeah. Okay, so that was the Lisa Leslie era. In fact, I'm gonna bring up Disney Channel really quick. I remember
Okay.
watching a Disney Channel movie. It was called Double Teamed, and I don't remember like what the who the sisters were. I think they actually ended up playing for a little bit in the WNBA, but they were two twins who I don't know. They were like these really tall girls, and I actually don't even know like what part of town they lived in, but they ended up like being I think they were kind of clunky on court, but with the proper coaching, they used their height to their advantage. They learned how to ball handle. They learned how to be really great basketball players, and then ended up playing in the WNBA. But I believe there was a reference of Lisa Leslie in the movie. Like I think maybe one of the players, I don't know if like she was a teammate of Lisa Leslie's, but I just remember that was like the first time that I really got introduced to the WNBA, and I was I was probably like 6 years old. Um, and I remember Lisa Leslie was like she was like the star. She was like the face of the WNBA. So like moments like that, that's what I'm talking about is how the game grows. It definitely needs more recognition and expansion.
Yeah. I'm trying to look the movie up right quick, but
Oh, Double Team? Yeah. Yeah,
you said the title. Okay. Double
yeah.
team.
Double Teamed, I think it was called, with an ED at the end. Double Teamed. Yeah, I was talking about it the other day. And it's got its cheesy moments, but it's a good one. It's a good one. If you got Disney Plus, I'm sure it's on there.
Okay. I might check that out. Yeah. Double T 2002.
Oh, okay.
Based
So
on
I
the
was
life
not.
stories.
I was 8. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a little younger than me, but that's
Yeah. I don't.
yeah.
Who are the players based on? Because I just remember them being twins. I didn't remember their names.
Heather and Heidi Burge.
Bird? Okay. Burge? Yeah.
Oh, Burge.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Berg? Yeah. I remember that now. Okay. Yeah,
All
Heather and
right.
Heidi. That was a good one. Now
There
I'm
you go. Like,
probably gonna watch it now.
yeah, those that team that emerged, that first generation of WNBA
Yes.
stars that sort of emerged from the '96 Olympic team. They were like, and
Right.
you look at the impact they have up to today with like Dawn Staley coaching at South Carolina and building like a dynasty down there. Like those were some amazing players, and unfortunately, I have to give some mention too to Cynthia Cooper. The reports that come out today about her and harassment involving players that she's coached at Texas Southern and USC. That's definitely a downside of the legacy of those players from that era. But in all, those players, really represented America and represented the game on an incredible level for years. And you look at people like Rebecca Lobo being sort of one of the voices of the game through her announcing today and too. And I see you, and there's different reference points too for pop culture. Like you have that Double Team. I always have the episode of Martin where the girls appeared, but when Martin thought that his wife was going to play him in some street ball, and she brought the Olympic basketball team. It was with Todd Staley and Lisa Leslie, and Lobo was on the episode. And
I gotta watch that episode.
Yeah, you could almost see that sort of randomly on VH1 or BET if you look hard enough. But that was a big moment. Like Dawn Staley, I saw her on an episode of Bomani Jones' HBO show recently, and she said she's recognized as much for that as
really
she's done on the court. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, maybe start putting some WNBA stars into some primetime shows then. Maybe Candace
Definitely.
Parker. Maybe Candace Parker. Maybe we'll see her on Mandalorian next season. Just holding Baby Yoda. With throwing him up like. No, I think that's awesome that our memories are different, and yours is remembering from a favorite TV show, and then maybe it sparked your interest a little bit about the WNBA, and now you remember you remember Lobo,
it made me see them as stars and as equals, like just like anyone else.
So I think there's so many ways that players could be recognized, and they're just not. They're not given the opportunity like some of the male athletes that we see, of course, in the NBA. And it needs to change. And it's really easy for me to sit here and say it needs to change, but it's not up to me. But you and I, like, the best we can do is do this, and it promote the Sky, promote the WNBA, write our stories. That's all we can do as reporters, as producers, as content producers. And we hope that somebody from the WNBA hears this, and I'm sure that a lot of them want the same thing, as far as promotion goes. But there's a whole lot
I'm always open to covering the sport more. I just a couple of my guys on text while I'm recording this. I said the guys who flaked on me today, but
tacos.
But they were talking about one of them is going to be credentialed for the game tomorrow, at least one of them, and they're going to be there. And it's like I say, I'm always encouraging that from this show and from other shows.
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that you are playing a part of it too. And I would encourage our bosses to help get you credentialed for this coming year as well. It's not too late. Like it's never really too late. Like I said, I had a great experience with the team last year, and I didn't really talk to them until again the playoffs. So it wasn't
same
like
here.
Yeah.
Same here. When I was assigned to cover the last couple games, like I said, I didn't have a clue about stats. And sometimes like if you follow the MLB, specifically NFL, there's always live stats. Like a second someone does something, you can find that stat online. With the WNBA, it's a little bit harder. So I had to really rely on the media team, and they've been kind to me ever since that game 3. Like, I email them, and sometimes teams maybe don't get to your email right away. They emailed me so fast. We're like, here's everything you need to know. Like, let us know if you have any questions. I remember having a couple of questions in game, and this was the finals again, and I was like, there's no way they're going to get back to me. Got back to me right away, because they love the sport just as much as we're trying to follow and cover it. Like, they want people to follow this too, and it's not just a job. And they've been really, really kind to me, which is why I would like to really work with them more, because there's some people in this industry, it's really hard. They're really hard to work with, and sometimes it makes your job not fun to see people that aren't as passionate as you. But I have nothing but good things to say from the staff members with the Sky. They've been really kind and helpful to me specifically, and I think to our the rest of our colleagues at NBC Sports Chicago. So just want to commend them and wish them really well this season.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody involved with the Sky on the media side, and shout out to our compadres at NBC Sports Chicago. And shout out to you, Steph. You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming on again. And last moment,
I was supposed to do Jimmy Fallon, but you called, and I was like, oh my God, Kyle! I've never been on his show. But no, it's been awesome.
And we bumped Matt Damon for you, so that's
Oh man, that's great. Wow. Yeah, my movie's gonna be better anyway. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Let everybody know before we wrap up how to follow you online.
Oh yeah.
Like I say, your work is on NBC Sports Chicago, so NBC Sports.com/Chicago, and that's definitely where you can find her work, her writing, and like I say, any however else you want people to follow you online.
Yeah, the best way to follow me is on Twitter. I'm at Steph Stremp 17. That's STEPH STREMP 17. And you can follow my articles. You can follow along at NBCSports.com/Chicago/Stephanie dash Stremplewski. It's a really long last name. It's the longest last name I'm sure that we have on staff. But yeah, I appreciate you following along, whether it's specifically for Sky or Sox or Bulls, whatever it is. I'm working every day. Yeah, or Wordle. Yeah, I'm working every day and learning as just like our audience too. I often call myself a novice reporter, but you know, you got to start somewhere. And I was really lucky to cover the Sky, and I'm so glad that they won it because, as we mentioned, it was a really close matchup there between Phoenix and but Phoenix could, and I'm gonna be really corny here. Phoenix could rise from the ashes this year. We're gonna see them in the playoffs. I really do believe that. But we're also, I think you and I are hoping for a repeat championship from our Chicago Sky.
Oh, no doubt. I definitely am. I'm not gonna be I'm not gonna like say hide my bias there. I'm definitely rooting for the Sky, but definitely like I say, you can look at Phoenix being competitive. Seattle is always competitive.
Yeah.
LA, I think they bringing in Liz Cambage, definitely gonna be a big addition to their front line, and they can make some noise out west, and I think Connecticut probably is gonna come back strong in the east side.
Yeah,
and maybe New York as well. They got some young talent, but they may grow some more this year. But they, you look at a player like, like Sabrina Ionescu, like she's probably going to be like when you look at someone like a Luka in the NBA, she may be like someone similar like that in the WNBA. And they picked up our girl Steph Dolson too. New York did.
Yeah.
So we know how effective she is, and she has the championship pedigree. So going back to her days at UConn, so that could be a tough team there in New York. So it's gonna be fun, man. The WNBA, here in Chicago, you guys, folks, should definitely take the time if you haven't.
Oh yeah.
Try to get to a game or two, or as many games as you can this year at the Wintrust. It's a great place to see a ball game. And wherever you watching this or listen to this, and your if you're close to a WNBA teams, try to support them as well if you're not already.
Absolutely. Even women's college basketball as well. Just support our women. They work really hard.
Yeah.
They work really hard, and there's always, I don't know if you watched the show Broad City, but there was an episode where Blake Griffin was on, and he was telling Alana, he was telling the main character, he was like, we steal our moves from the WNBA. That's probably true. I mean, come on. No.
But see, that's the thing. That's the thing too. Like NBA players are some of the biggest supporters of the WNBA. Whether you could see them coming out to games or the way they speak about, real respect's real. Hoopers respect hoopers. So that's why I always be like, if you some jerk, overweight jerk, and I can be an overweight jerk in some ways, but if you're just some overweight jerk sitting on your couch talking about, I used to play, play.
That's me in the Olympics.
Those be the worst ones talking about, what they can and can't do, and what
I'm eating my potato chips, like watching the Olympics. Like, that guy fell. What? No, I have so much respect for all athletes. That's why I do this job, because I am a failed athlete, and failed athletes become writers, Kyle. So that's where I'm at.
Exactly. So yeah, we know the deal, and hoopers know the deal. Like I say, real respect's real. So you're not gonna catch me disrespecting anybody who gets out there at that level, because they know what they're doing and they worked hard to get where they are.
Yeah, and some of those players, they're the best athletes in the world. Doesn't matter what sport. Like, some of those athletes in the WNBA are top tier.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we'll continue to look at them here, and we're gonna be definitely following throughout the 22 season, and definitely, like Steph, I'll definitely get you back on and talk with me and my other guys about whatever, man. Whatever basketball in general, but definitely the WNBA as you cover it more for NBC Sports Chicago. So once again, really appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Kyle.
You gave me a real dope WNBA preview. I just wanted to do something before the season got forward officially tomorrow. But like I said, next week we'll have some more coverage with Sabria Whitaker. We'll keep up throughout the rest of the season, even with the NBA stuff going on, because this is a pure basketball show. We talk about basketball from all angles on Runnin with WARR. So keep following us on WARR Media, all major platforms, YouTube, Twitter, of course. You can watch this podcast on Twitter or YouTube, and Facebook, IG, all that. WARR on Anchor, our podcast platform. We distribute to all major podcast platforms. So if you like to listen on Apple, we're there. You like to listen on Spotify, we're there. iHeartMedia, whatever, you can listen to us on any major podcast platform. So definitely support, and if you like what we do, give us a good rating, pass us on to your friends and family, and give a recommendation however you can. And we definitely appreciate that. Support those who support us as well. Tix Blitz, 5% off any order on TixBlitz.com or the TixBlitz app. Use the promo code WARR. And if you want to go to a Sky game and get a little bit off for your, save a little bit of money, use the code WARR. And
you need that popcorn money, save some money for some popcorn.
Yeah. So that's it for now. Steph, definitely appreciate you. I'm Kyle Means. That's it for us for now. Keep bouncing and keep supporting women's sports. That's it.